Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Heather and I'm the owner, creator, and coach for Believe in Better Finances. So for today's video topic, I'm going to be talking specifically about interviews and how to ask impressive interview questions. Now you might be saying, well Heather, how does that pertain to my finances? Well, again, if you're interviewing for a job or a better job for that matter, the more that you can do to be impressive in an interview, hopefully to land that role or to be able to ask even more money for that position, the better, right? Because that's going to pertain back to how our income's going to be and the other financial goals and needs that you're going to be able to fulfill through your employment and your income. So I thought it would be helpful. I have some limited experience as a hiring manager. I've hired, I wouldn't say hundreds of people, but I have hired my fair share of employees over the past several years. And so one of the things that I think has really spoken the most to me when I'm interviewing people is those that come prepared to ask me questions in return. So after I've explained the position, after I've asked them my list of questions and heard their feedback, I always, as a hiring manager or the HR person that's in the room with me, leave time for them to be able to ask questions back to me so that way they can get to know myself, the position better, as well as the company or the organization. So I thought that this would be a good time to share with you guys if you are on a job hunt or if you're looking to possibly have a new job in the future. Maybe you're looking to even, promote in a different part of the company. These are all good questions that you can ask. Obviously, these can be tailored depending on the industry that you're in and what you're looking to do. But the point being is do your research and come prepared with a list of questions to ask that hiring manager when you're in the interview process. So question number one would be, what does a typical day look like? So obviously the reason you would ask this question is if they didn't already explain the job itself or the job duties at the beginning of the interview, or you're still not exactly clear on what the expectations would be for you doing that job, that's a good time before you leave the interview is to get clarity on that. What does a typical day look like? Are you in the office all day? Do you have to travel for business? Do you have to go to lunch appointments? Do you have to work after hours? So obviously those are going to be more scheduling type questions, but also what are the daily duties? What are tasks and projects and things like that that you would be working on? Just so you have a very good, clear understanding of what that job would look like. Question number two that I would ask any hiring manager is, how long have they been with the company? And if they've been there for a couple years or more, what makes them stay? So obviously I think it speaks volumes if a hiring manager has been there for a while. Maybe they've only been there for a few months, but again, maybe they just transferred for a company and they just now started working there. So again, that's good to know, but especially if they've been there for quite a while, I would want to know, obviously you've worked here a long time, what makes you stay? What do you enjoy about working here? Again, any insight that they can provide to you to help you make that decision on whether or not you should accept the job if they offer you the position, all the better. Question number three, what does the company culture look like and what is the typical work environment like? So again, anything that you can do to learn more about the company culture. Is it a positive work environment? Again, I think anybody, you can pick up on subtle hints if things are not good based on comments that they share with you, or if they are great. So again, I think for a lot of people, if you've never worked for a company that has a great company culture, you know exactly what that looks like. And a lot of times you can pick up on that kind of feedback. Or like in my case, I'm not saying that I'm looking to leave my current employer, but if I ever did, the bar is set very high for me because the company that I currently work for, the culture, the work environment is so positive, it's so wonderful, it makes me not want to leave. So in order for me to leave, I would have to leave for a much better opportunity. And even if that position pays me more or is a higher level position, I'm definitely going to want to know what the company culture is like, because the work environment can make or break a position regardless of how much it's paid or what your title is. If it's a bad environment to work in, you're not going to want to stay there for very long. So I think asking a question like that is very important. Question number four kind of goes back to the question you asked the hiring manager, but I would also ask them overall, what's the average tenure of the employees at that company? Again, that will tell you a whole lot. Working in business development at my company that I'm at now, I had the opportunity to go into different businesses in all industries. And one thing that I picked up on very easily was Again, kind of relating back to company culture, if the work environment is really bad, oftentimes that tells you that the average tenure is going to be very short, usually a year or less, or maybe up to a couple, 2 to 3 years. It doesn't usually go beyond that because, again, people typically aren't happy. Either the leadership team doesn't show employee appreciation very well, or there's other factors that are going on. Maybe it's an economic type thing where it's a very volatile industry, and so, you know, people don't stay quite as long. So that may be something that you're willing to deal with, but again, it would be good for you to know that up front in making your decision. Question number 5 to be asking the hiring manager or even the HR person is to ask them to tell you about some of the company's or the organization's short or long-term goals. Again, just providing more insight to you to help you make that decision, all the better. Question number 6 of what I would ask would be, how would your performance be evaluated? So again, this could be different depending on the industry that you work in. Some industries, the way you basically keep your job is through ongoing tests for a periodic amount of time. Others may do the typical 1-year performance evaluation or 1-year annual review type thing. And in that case, is it something where you would have the opportunity to provide feedback? Or is it one of those things where you walk into your hiring manager's office and then they share their thoughts and feedback with you, but you don't really have the opportunity to voice your successes or struggles? So that being said, in my current employer, we have a system online. It's actually an evaluation website that we go to. So you log in, the employee will go in and evaluate themselves in several areas. So maybe it's, how are you doing in communication? How are you doing as far as teamwork? How are you doing as far as time management? Whatever the categories may be, you go in there, you know, add a little description about how you feel you're doing in that area, and then you rate yourself from 1 to 5. And then in that case, once I've submitted my evaluation, my boss can then go in and submit her evaluation as well, and then they combine the two together to get my overall merit increase. So again, I really love that because I feel like it gives me the opportunity to, quote, toot my own horn, because again, you're going to be the only one to toot your own horn most of the time. You can't always rely on other people or your managers to do that. So I feel like that's a very fair way about doing a performance evaluation. So I would like to know that if I were to go looking somewhere else, what kind of evaluation system is in play at that organization. Question number 7. So if you're the type of person where you're hoping to advance, whether it's to move up or to move over into a different department or a different division, a good question is to ask what type of opportunities may open up down the road for somebody in that current position. So again, maybe you want to stay in that position long term and you'll be fine with that. But if your ultimate goal is to move up, to be able to make more money, to be able to take on more responsibilities and things like that, maybe you want to get into a management position, you need to ask them what kind of opportunities are currently available. And if there aren't any, you know, do they forecast seeing any opportunities in the future? The last thing you would want to do is, if your goal is to ultimately move up and to be in a higher level position, and they go, no, there's no opportunities and there isn't going to be in the next 5-10 years, then you may want to think twice about whether or not you want to take that position, because you're going to get stuck for a period of time, and then you have to just decide whether or not you want to be willing to stay in that position for a while, or maybe you take that, then maybe you go ahead and take the position, you gain skills, and then you go and move on from there later on in the future. But again, those are all things I would think about and finding out what opportunities may be ahead looking long term or even short term. And then my last question, or question number 8, would be, what are some of the initiatives that the company does as far as learning and development goes for their employees? So again, one of the things that I think is very telling about a company and their culture is if they invest company dollars to further develop and educate their employees. So whether it's offering things like tuition reimbursement programs, so you can either earn that degree, or maybe you want to go back and earn like your MBA or something like that. Do they help with that? Do they provide any kind of ongoing internal training to make you a better employee? Do they provide external training? So in some companies, they're so small that they might not have a very large training department, or just don't have the resources to offer it in-house. But would they be willing to send you to external training? Is that something that they commonly do with their employees, or what's the process look like? So again, asking questions on how does the company invest in their employees from a professional development standpoint is going to be very important, especially if you have desires to grow or to just gain skills, so that way you can take those to future positions then again, I would want to know all about that. One of the things that I think spoke volumes as far as my current CEO goes is one time I was visiting with him about school. I was in school at the time, and he was just, we happened to catch each other on the elevator, and he knew I was doing college classes, so he's asking me, and we got on the subject of tuition reimbursement and how much I really appreciated that our company offers tuition reimbursement to so many of our employees. Because for many of us, without it, we wouldn't be able to go to school, or we'd be in a pile of student loan debt. And I asked him one time, I'm like, so, if somebody wanted to take a French class, for example, would our company cover that under the tuition reimbursement program, because I'm in a business environment? And he said, well, it's not directly pertaining to your role, no, but he said, the way I look at it, an educated employee is an asset to the organization. And that's always stuck for me, that phrase of an educated employee is an asset to us. And that's so true, because even though it may be a French class, just the amount of time you're having to study, work with teams, work on your communication. There's so many skills that you develop just taking a college course, whether it's time management, learning to work with different types of people if you have group projects, which is oftentimes the case for any college course. But, so yeah, maybe that French language might not directly pertain to your employer, unless maybe you work with different businesses in France, but nonetheless, it's still, you're gaining skills through that. And I think that was kind of his point, was, again, just going through the process of earning your degree. It's very tough, and it demands you to learn new skills in order to get that degree earned. So those are definitely skills that translate in a business environment, and he does see the value in that. So again, asking about what they do as far as providing resources to help you further develop your professional career, I think is very important. So again, all of these questions that I mentioned, these definitely might need to be tailored based on the job that you're going in to interview with. Some of them may make sense to ask, and some of them may not make sense depending on the industry or the position that you're applying for. Or there could be better questions or better ways to phrase your questions depending on what role it is that you're applying. So anyways, that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed this impressive interview question list, and just kind of get you thinking, next time you're up for a new position and you got that call to come in and interview, that's exciting. I think what I'm going to be doing as well is putting together a couple other videos on how to get prepared for an interview, how to pull off a successful interview. So if you have any other tips or suggestions or questions or things that you would like me to talk about in future videos, feel free to leave a comment below. And again, add any additional questions. So if you have other questions that you would ask in an interview from the person asking the hiring manager, then feel free to leave that below, because obviously the more questions that we can help others, the better with. So I want to say thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. It would mean a lot to me. And be sure and subscribe for future videos on all things money. I'll see you next time. Bye.